Yes, it is a Tuesday morning. We are back at it. He is Mark Malusis. I am Keith Irizarry. It is Moose and Keith, Better Sports Network. Got a lot to do. Moose is rocking the blue. Listen, man, why you try to? You look fit too.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not. No, I'm not fit. But I
Just a good
appreciate.
camera angle.
Yeah, just a good camera angle. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Man, a lot has happened since we last were on the air. There were like Hall of Famers moving to different teams, and there are baseball teams like the New York Mets that are now one of the worst teams in baseball, it seems like. You've got the Cincinnati Reds who went through a run where they looked like they were the best team in baseball. Now they've lost 3 games in a row. Football stories galore. But I do think we start with the NBA, right? Because we got free agency. It'll officially begin, I guess you could say, on Friday when people can start signing, or at least signing their sheets to go to other teams. With that, what did you make of Chris Paul, the Golden State Warrior?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, honestly, I think for the Golden State Warriors, I think it's well, a couple things. Number one is they need to get Jordan Poole off the team, and he is off the team just from the sheer dynamic aspect of it. Team was not right. We talked about throughout the course of the regular season how after that punch by Draymond Green during the course of training camp that was never right for the Golden State Warriors. I love it. I mean, I honestly do. So I think it's addition by subtraction, get rid of Jordan Poole. I also think it alleviates some of the concern or the strain on Steph Curry to be, the guy. And now you got Chris Paul conceivably to run that second unit. You also have, I also think Draymond Green in all likelihood is probably going to be back with the Golden State Warriors with this news of Jordan Poole getting traded. And I think Chris Paul at this stage lands in a spot where, given his age and given where his game is, he can no longer be the guy, and I don't think he has to be the guy, obviously, in Golden State with the Warriors. I think it works on a lot of different levels, and there was a lot of belief that maybe, they were getting rid of Chris, or they got rid of, acquired Chris Paul to just get rid of Jordan Poole, and then they were going to move on from Chris Paul, but that doesn't seem to be the case in Golden State. They're going to hold on to Paul, and now he's going to be with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and that group out there in Golden State. He's never won an NBA championship. I think it's vast. I think it's really, really intriguing. I think the Warriors went into it with their new general manager and Dunleavy and went into it with the idea that they needed to get rid of Jordan Poole, and they did, and they added a future Hall of Famer who's now been traded on 6 different occasions.
The Chris Paul situation to me on the surface, Moose, sounds amazing. I think it sounds glorious. This is going to be all about Chris Paul buying into this specific role. And you mentioned it, right? You said Chris Paul leading that second unit. Is he okay with that is going to be the question. Because if Chris Paul gets cranky and decides that, I'm still a starting point guard in the NBA, because skill-wise he is, right? Over the last 2 years, no guard in the NBA has averaged more assists per game than Chris Paul. That is actually a fact. Now, the other fact is that Chris Paul wears down at the end of every season and is never truly available for the postseason, right? So something needs to click for Chris Paul here, not physically, something here, where if he's going to be a part of the Golden State Warriors, this needs to be whether it's Dunleavy or Kerr or whomever is the one that says this to Chris Paul, needs to sit down and imagine you're Chris Paul, Mark Malusis, and I go, Chris, listen, you're a first ballot Hall of Famer. You've done everything in the NBA you could ask for except for win an NBA championship. The Golden State Warriors, this is what we're about. We're about that life of living championships, right? And winning championships. So here's the deal. We're going to play you 22 to 25 minutes a game. You're going to probably sit out 20 games this year. You're going to play 62 games or so, all because we want you to be ready for the postseason and not only help us win a championship, get you your first championship. Chris, you buying in? You in CP3?
Yeah, I think he would be. No?
Yeah. I mean, that's it, right? Like, if you lay it all out like that, like, I understand that some of his numbers are going to go down and he's not going to listen, Chris Paul may end up averaging 11 points and 7 assists per game this year. But if that ended with an NBA title, isn't it worth it?
Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, I for Paul. Listen, I don't think we can listen. I think from a Golden State perspective, no matter what the role is for Chris Paul, and I don't think he's going to be I don't think he's going to be a distraction out there in Golden State. Here's what you need to know. I mean, the Warriors need to get rid of Jordan Poole in order to move forward as an organization. So whatever it was, and it was a contract that was going to be an albatross around the team's neck last year that he signed that extension, and Jordan Poole was a guy that reportedly teammates couldn't stand, and they had needed to get rid of him. So Jordan Poole is now gone, and now he's a member of the Washington Wizards. So for the Golden State Warriors, that was priority number one. Whatever role Chris Paul fills on the Golden State Warriors is an added bonus. So I think he'll buy in. I think he'll be all in on trying to win an NBA championship. I have no doubt about that. We know what that team is still going to be all about. You also don't need him for the entirety of the regular season. I'm not telling you he's going to take it off, but you're not going to squeeze the lemon, in December and January and February. You're going to look for Chris Paul to kind of make his way in April, May, and June when the playoffs are getting going, and you're going to find a role. Now, is it a perfect role? No, it's not. I mean, is he a traditional spot-up three-point shooter, or is he not? He loves to run the pick-and-roll offense. Is that really what Golden State likes to do? No. Is he going to be able to adjust and evolve his game? We'll see. Or does Golden State evolve their offense in order to fit the talent level or the talents of Chris Paul, especially on that secondary unit? You might see that as well. So you might see a little bit of an adjustment here from the Golden State Warriors with the addition of Chris Paul. The biggest key, though, was they needed to get rid of Poole. I mean, that was the biggest key for the Golden State Warriors, and they accomplished that. Now, you look at Chris Paul, who we know the skills were diminished. You're not asking him to do a hell of a lot. I think for just the nature and the team aspect and the buy-in out in Golden State, they needed to get rid of a guy that was clearly a distraction, clearly didn't bring the team together. I'm not putting it all on Jordan Poole, but still, I mean, Steve Kerr was never able to rally the troops a year ago. We talked about it and said that something seemed to miss with Golden State, especially with the way that their record was on the road during the course of the regular season. Get rid of Jordan Poole, like I mentioned before. I think it's addition by subtraction.
How much do you think relationships in the NBA matter?
I think they matter.
Okay, cool. So with that, I would like to play some video here. Draymond Green, always outspoken. Here he is discussing Steph CP3 dynamic from the past and going forward.
I don't like CP at all. Like, we don't have a good relationship at all, but I respect his hustle and I respect his IQ. He's smart as hell. And
smart.
And CP was kind of using, like, CP saw Steph coming up. And, once you start to get older in this league, you start to realize, like, okay, this guy is coming. Eventually, he may catch me because I'm going to start to decline at some point. And so I would kind of see CP kind of keeping Steph at bay, but yet giving him a stiff arm at the same time. Now, Steph, Steph ain't, Steph is Steph. Like, we all love Steph, right? He ain't cut like, he ain't got the street part to him. And so
he ain't confrontational at all. He ain't confrontational.
Exactly. And so with me coming from where I come from and the way I grew up, I'm kind of watching like, yo, he kind of rock with you, Steph, but he kind of don't. He kind of keeping you at bay. And so I took it upon myself to try to create division there.
So obviously this was before the Chris Paul trade there. That's with, Steven Jackson on their podcast. What did you think of Draymond Green laying all of that out there, kind of really almost putting Steph a little bit on blast for not being like, street like me, essentially, is what Draymond said. And then also saying that Chris Paul was playing both sides of the coin, right? Like he was playing the I want to be your friend, but I also don't like you.
Yeah, well, I could see that, but didn't Jordan do that historically speaking? I mean, Jordan was a guy that, would look to, Jeff Van Gundy, Pat Riley used to tell John Starks all the time, he's not your friend. Don't make it out. He wants to take your heart. So, I mean, that's what, competitors do. They want to maybe create a little bit of a soft spot, create that friendship angle or whatever it might be, and then, then go for the jugular. I mean, that doesn't bother me, but I think at at the base of it, he talked about the fact that he respects him. I mean, so he could talk about the fact that he doesn't like him or doesn't like the way that he handled Steph Curry. All of that can be worked out and ironed out as well over the course of time, too, because I think Chris Paul is at a different stage of his career. And then I think Draymond Green is also at a different stage of his career as well. Let's not make it out to be that we got peak Draymond Green this past year with the Golden State Warriors. We did not. And, maybe he decides to obviously, if he wants to leave in free agency, but I get the relationship angle. I don't think it's as toxic as it was with Poole. And I think a lot of all of that stuff can go out there and be rectified. Yeah, listen, Curry's not, I can't speak to the street angle of Steph Curry. I'll just speak to the angle of, is Steph Curry like built like a brick, what? No, it's not. I mean, he's not. So are guys going to be able to be physical with Steph Curry over the course of his career? For sure. Is Steph Curry maybe not necessarily as street smart as others in the NBA? I mean, I can't speak to that like Draymond Green can. All I do know this is that the Golden State Warriors today or yesterday or the day before that or right after this deal went down with Washington, the Golden State Warriors are a better basketball team now after making that trade and bringing in Chris Paul, even with the baggage and the history with Paul and Golden State and Paul and Curry and Paul and Draymond Green. They're a better basketball team now than they were before that trade went down.
I think I agree with you. One person who has been really outspoken about this, saying that they're not a better team, is Tim Legler. He's been all over ESPN, and every single time there's a discussion about this Chris Paul move to Golden State, he talks about how, Golden State wants to move fast. Chris Paul is not necessarily a fast guard anymore. Golden State wants to get out and run and shoot. Chris Paul is better in a pick and roll, and that's not something the Golden State does. But I'm with you on the side where, and I think we talked about, and I remember I've actually spoken to my 12-year-old son, Austin, about this too. All right, so when you get in fights, and all people at some point in their lives get in fights, and I'm sure whether you were 7 years old or 17 years old, Moose, I'm sure you've been in a fight. I have been in fights. Everyone's been in fights, whatever, right? There's a difference between getting in a fair fight and then moving on or getting sucker punched. And the thing that happened with Draymond and Jordan Poole, whatever Jordan Poole said, whatever Jordan Poole did that was the last straw for Draymond Green. Draymond Green sucker punched him. And Jordan Poole was never going to be able to put that behind him. They were never going to be able to be boys again. It wasn't going to happen. Now, there's a difference because, Moose, you and I, we go out, we push each other, we fight, whatever it is, and it's like a normal, we're angry at each other. You move on. It's fine. But you and I go out and I'm like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And you just turn around and cold cock me in the face. I don't want to talk to you anymore. We're good. I'm done. I don't want to be your boy. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to work with you. And that's where this was. So whatever Chris Paul brings to the table, it's going to be better than what Jordan Poole had for the Golden State Warriors last season. Wasn't going to work.
Yeah, I mean, our boss Matt Deutsch is saying, didn't the Warriors' offense get much worse with Paul for Poole swap? I mean,
but
Poole
did it?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Jordan Poole can score when he's on, but he was not good in the playoffs.
No, he was terrible in the playoffs, and I think the offense is going to have to adjust here if you're the Golden State Warriors with Chris Paul. Listen, it works. I mean, I think we're both in agreement that it works. I think it adds another interesting and fascinating storyline in the NBA. I think for Jordan Poole, he also needed a change of scenery, so we'll see exactly what it looks like down in Washington. I mean, there's not much left there with Bradley Beal now, a member of the
him and Tyus Jones is kind of a fun backcourt.
It is, but they're still going to be terrible. No, I mean, they're going to be a bad basketball team. And after the deal that Washington made with Kristaps Porzingis, I mean, that was the other big move right around the NBA draft or a couple days before it was that, Porzingis going to Boston from Washington, Marcus Smart going from Boston to the Memphis Grizzlies, Tyus Jones and a second-round pick going to Washington. The Celtics ended up with 2 first-round draft choices, one this year, one next year as well. But they get Kristaps Porzingis, who they didn't have to sign into a long-term contract, who opts into his deal for $36.1 million. And Porzingis now gives the Boston Celtics a little bit of a different look. Listen, I think it's a little tough when you look at, I'm a huge Marcus Smart fan, and I'm going to always think about Marcus Smart being a Boston Celtic. But They haven't won an NBA championship. So if you're Boston, at some point in time, you got to look at it and say, well, things have got to change here. We got to do something a little bit different in order maybe to get us over the hump. And as good as Smart was 2 years ago being Defensive Player of the Year, he wasn't necessarily that as good this past year for the Boston Celtics. And they had become a team, honestly, Keith, where you basically knew the Celtics roster like the back of the hand. I mean, it was Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, Brogdon, White, Al Horford, Robert Williams. You knew the key components of Boston, whoever was coaching the team, whether it be Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, or this past year in Joe Mazzulla. So you knew all of that when you looked at Boston. I guess they needed to do something to change things up. And now you throw in a guy like Porzingis into the mix for the Boston Celtics, and now you can give a guy that clearly can be an offensive, coming off a great offensive year, is a stretch big, can shoot the ball from the outside. I mean, it's going to be fascinating looking at Porzingis, Brown, and Tatum now moving forward for Boston.
The issue for Kristaps Porzingis has never been talent, it's health. In a vacuum, last year, Porzingis played 65 games, which the Boston Celtics would clearly take, averaged 23.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, almost 3 assists per game. He was blocking multiple shots per game, shoots 39% from long range, shoots 50% from the field, and played about 33 minutes per contest. Like, just do all the math. Those are not things statistically that Marcus Smart will ever give you. Now, the Boston Celtics, and we had Claudia Bellafato on Better's Eye last week, and kind of for fun, we asked her a little bit about what was going on in the state of Boston. I think it was either Thursday or Friday of last week we had her on, the mind frame of the Boston fan losing Marcus Smart, and she said, "Listen, Marcus Smart was the heart and arguably the soul of this Boston Celtics team." But the Celtics fans understand that something needed to change. And if it wasn't going to be Tatum, and it was never going to be, and if it wasn't going to be Jaylen Brown, it more than likely never was going to be, it was going to end up being Marcus Smart. So I think it's a good move. I think it's a better than lateral move for the Boston Celtics, but I will throw this out. The Celtics are pretty bare now at guard, because as much as Malcolm Brogdon is extremely talented, something scared off teams on the trade market a week and a half ago, right?
Well, the elbow injury?
Yeah. So something gave them pause into trading for Malcolm Brogdon. So you're left with Brogdon, Derek White, and essentially Peyton Pritchard. That's not a veritable who's who of guards. So they could struggle a little bit in the guard play, but if you tell me Porzingis, Brown, Tatum, those three are healthy, it's a hard trio to stop.
Well, it is, and I think just for the sake, as I mentioned, Keith, I think they need to do something a little bit different. I do. I think the Boston Celtics looked at it and said, well, we can't continue to lean on Horford down low the way we're looking at it. Robert Williams is never 100% healthy, so we needed to do something a little bit different. And maybe this is a case where, Peyton Pritchard gets a little bit more burn. If you're a Celtic, if you're Joe Mazzulla, and I don't even know what his contract situation is, but I believe Peyton Pritchard is still going to be a member of the Boston Celtics. But throw him,
he's only been in 2 years, so
right. So Pritchard is a guy that maybe they throw into the mix now, gets a little bit more burn. It's going to look. Listen, I think they would have preferred to obviously have traded Brogdon instead of Marcus Smart. But the Clippers backed off on the Brogdon deal, and now Brogdon, who was traded for 8 hours, is now still a member of the Boston Celtics. White is an absolute stud. We know that, and he could play, 35 to 38 minutes a night. Brogdon could be that guy coming off the bench. I mentioned, and maybe this is a case where you use your mid-level exemption, something Boston has not used in order to bring in another guard into the mix for the Celtics. But I think for them, it works. Here's the other thing for Boston where it works is I don't have to give Porzingis a long-term deal. I can play a wait-and-see approach here, how Kristaps Porzingis fits with Brown and Tatum. I'm taking a swing. I'll see if maybe this trio ends up delivering an NBA championship once again to the city of Boston and to that Celtics organization. I also need Brown's game to evolve a little bit. I need Tatum to evolve a little bit. So more specifically Brown than Tatum, but you get the point that I'm making. But I don't have to invest in Kristaps Porzingis, a guy that's been oft injured. I don't have to invest in him long term. I could say wait and see approach. From a Memphis perspective, listen, it's great. I mean, the Grizzlies needed to do something to change. They needed to change the room, whether it be inexperience, whether it be youth, whether it be just purely, lack of professionalism.
You could say it, culture. Change the
Yeah, I
culture of
mean,
that
they
locker room.
need
I
to
mean, it's
change
as
the
simple as
culture,
that. Yeah.
immaturity, however way you want to
Yeah.
look at it for the Memphis Grizzlies. They bring in a guy, Marcus Smart. As long as he buys in, if you're a Memphis Grizzly fan, after John Morant gets his 25-game suspension, you're going to bring in a guy that has been through the battles, has been to 5 Eastern Conference Finals as a member of the Boston Celtics, has been a former Defensive Player of the Year, mind his P's and Q's. The city of Boston absolutely adores and loves him. I'm sure the city of Memphis is going to love him even at this stage of his career as well. I think for Memphis, though, you needed somebody to bring somebody in that was going to change the culture of the Memphis Grizzlies. I think they brought that guy in Marcus Smart.
And I think that if you look at the Grizzlies team, assuming that Ja Morant at some point gets back out on the floor and is Ja Morant, I mean, Morant, Smart, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson, that's a nice, foursome right there. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's pretty good. And, and for Memphis, I think it works. And, they've got, hopefully Morant is going to see the light of day with the 25-game suspension. And that when he comes back, he's no longer playing with guns. And like we've talked about it before, it's not about the legality. It has nothing to do with where you stand on gun rights. It has to do with the fact that he plays for a team within the association. They told him to knock it off and stop playing with guns and stop doing it. He kept on doing it, whether it was a toy gun or a real gun. Yep. I don't care. It was out on social media. That's why he got treated with a heavy hand by the NBA and the commissioner's office and gets the 25-game suspension. So hopefully, because we all love watching John Morant play basketball, so hopefully he sees the light of day. For Washington, though, like if you're a Wizard fan, just kind of on a quick side note, like you deal all these players and, I mean, you end up with like nothing. I mean, you end up with Jordan Poole. I mean, Porzingis is gone. You get Tyus Jones. You mentioned Tyus Jones and Poole could be a nice backcourt down in Washington. Beal is now a member of the Phoenix Suns. That was a pure salary dump. Porzingis opts in. He goes up to Boston. You're not getting either of those 2 first-round draft choices from the Boston Celtics. They both go to the Boston Celtics for dealing Marcus Smart. So it's amazing when you look at Washington, who is now starting anew once again, where the face of them, you thought you had at one point in time so many different machinations, whether it be Westbrook and Beal and Porzingis and going down the line. Now, if you're Washington, you're left with Jordan Poole and you're left with Tyus Jones and not a lot else.
I'm right in our chat. I love this. The Wizards can lose with Beal and Wall and Porzingis. They can also lose without them. That is right. They're paying a lot less money for the players.
That's true.
That they have right now. I'm right. The no trade clause in the NBA. I don't remember what NBA writer. I think it was in The Athletic that I was reading this. And I apologize to whomever wrote this, but that Bradley Beal will probably be the last player that ever has the full no trade clause. That this will be that owners, GMs, team presidents, everyone will smarten up on this and realize that the full no trade clause is not worth it in any of these contracts anymore, because all it's going to end up doing is essentially getting it so that you can't trade someone for their value. Because there is no reason why Bradley Beal should have been traded for, a bag of popcorn.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's traded for, even with a regression in his game. Don't disagree with you there.
Doesn't matter.
Now we got a couple of things before, and Britt Flynn's going to join us bottom of the hour. So hit upon
it might have been Hollinger. Thank you, Jessica. I believe it was Hollinger.
Couple other things before we take our first time out here on Moose and Keith here on this Tuesday on the Better Sports Network. Number one is this, the Portland situation with Dame Lillard's one to follow. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. The Blazers don't want to be the bad guy, wherever that might be. Where the reports are, he wants to end up in Miami, but he doesn't want to end up with a super stacked team. He wants to end up with a team that has got a chance to win an NBA championship. Well, I mean, every team's got a chance to start the NBA season, but this is now going to become basically like, even though it's it's going to become like the Aaron Rodgers situation was with Green Bay. I mean, we're going to be following this on a day in, day out basis based on what tweets are sent out, what's going out on social media when it comes to Dame Lillard and his interest in being a Portland Trailblazer, or if there's any kind of momentum of him getting traded away from Portland. I think there are a lot of people who love to end up in Miami and playing for Spoelstra and the Miami Heat. He doesn't want to be viewed as the bad guy, but this is going to be a drama and a saga that's going to continue. I think it's going to last a while here, Keith.
I say we get a decision the week of July 10th. That's so July 6th is when all deals and everything can be finalized, right?
Yeah.
I say that, at some point after July 6th. So like that 4th of July week. 4th of July is on a Tuesday. The 6th is a Thursday. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think that's a news dump type of thing. So I don't think it'll happen on Friday the 7th. So I'm saying somewhere around like Monday, July 10th, Tuesday, July 11th, somewhere in that area. If this is going to happen, it happens then. Lillard gets traded to insert team. I think you're right. I think it's probably Miami, because you're going to want him to be around his teammates and have a full summer of getting to know some of those guys, maybe getting to work out with some of those guys. And listen, the NBA, as big as it is, it's also as small as it is. Like we talk about that in broadcasting too, where it's like, oh, I've worked with this guy. Yeah, I work with him too. I work with her too. Yeah, I used to work. Yeah, exactly. It's all small. Everyone knows everybody. But I think with the NBA, you want Lillard to get there. And whether it's, I don't care, go to a bar and hang out with Jimmy Butler and get a few drinks with him. But like you want that bonding to happen. For Miami, I mean, I think it's Tyler Hero, it's Duncan Robinson, it could be Caleb Martin. I think Caleb Martin, they still have to sign, by the way. And then it's draft picks. That's how you're going to get Damian Lillard if that's going to happen.
So you got Lillard, and then you got NBA free agency, which officially gets going on Friday.
Oh, we can start talking about Kyrie, your boy Kyrie,
all that kind of stuff. That all gets going on Friday.
Yeah, you're so excited about everything Kyrie related.
I'm not excited about Kyrie.
Wide receiver with friends.
Well, I'm curious to see where I'm interested in the drama.
Kyrie's going to be in Dallas, Draymond Golden State, Harden Rockets. That's my guess.
Kyrie
goes back to Dallas.
Okay.
Draymond stays in Golden State.
Yeah.
Harden goes to Houston.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's the betting favorites.
Quickly start the conversation of when will Embiid start demanding a trade?
And the Knicks would be clearly interested in that.
Oh my! What wouldn't you give up for Embiid if you're the Knicks?
Give it all up.
Right? Like, honestly, if Brunson had to be a part of it, I'm fine. But I don't want it to be Brunson.
I don't know. I can't give up Brunson.
I would. For Embiid, I would. I don't want to.
Yeah, I would think if you're the Knicks, you're giving up anything other than Jalen Brunson.
And also, if you're Embiid, you don't want to come to New York to not play with Brunson. Like,
right.
If you're coming to New York, you want to play with
a point guard to be able to get you the basketball. You want to have Brunson be a part of it.
Oh,
Brunson can't be a part of it.
We can all dream, can't we?
Things would be. Yeah.
Oh, we can all dream.
Well, unless you see James Harden go out there and respond, or the 76ers respond with not having him on the team. And what I mean by going out there. And I do think Tyrese Maxey's a guy that's going to be the second best player on that team.
Yes.
Yes.
And he'll finally get a chance to really be that guy.
Yes. No question.
The Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide, all sports subscription. Fantasy Alarm's all pro subscription has everything you need to win your fantasy football league, including the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide. I don't know if you checked that out. Dude, it is awesome. So many things there. Your cheat sheet, it's a one-stop shop for dominating your drafts, authored by proven fantasy winners. You can dive into these dynasty leagues, redraft leagues, best ball, more. It tells you everything that you need to know. $26.99, or you can get it for free with the monthly or the annual all-pro subscription to Fantasy Alarm. You can also start a 7-day free trial of Fantasy Alarm All-Pro. You get it immediately, the access, the draft guide, and you go to fantasyalarm.com for all of that. It is also, and we had Howard on last week, Howard Bender, and he was telling us as well. They're going to update it like crazy. So it's going to be like a rolling update. You're not buying it for $27 today
and that's
saying,
okay, it's not like buying a magazine at Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah. Nope. Oh, I did love me some Barnes and Noble.
It's great. Who didn't love going to Barnes and Nobles and sitting there at like the magazine section, just like perusing for like 45 minutes?
Yeah, they're still around. Borders is gone, right?
I believe you're right.
Yeah, I think it's Barnes and Noble still around. Borders is gone. I used to like Borders too.
Yeah, they were great. Like I remember going to the Palisade Center, Rockland County, and hanging out before you go see the movie. Let's stop at Barnes and Nobles, look around, get like a cup of coffee, whatever it might be, and check out. And then they'd have like especially this time of year when you had all the preview magazines.
Love the
preview
magazine.
Oh my God, you had the Athlon, all the college
just
football.
waiting for Phil Steele to put his stuff
Phil
out.
Steele. It's just amazing. It's just great. Those are great things.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Love it. Especially now. I mean, nowadays, it's like everything changes in the span of a second.
Yeah. And that's
Transfer
why going
portal.
digital is a great way to go.
No question about it. Check it out. $26.99 monthly or annual all-pro subscription of Fantasy Alarm. But the Draft Guide, $26.99 is fantastic. Check it out, fantasyalarm.com. Britt Flinn is going to join the program next. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Mark Malusis. The show is Moose and Keith. We're here on a Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
Breece Hall right now, and I've talked to plenty of high-stakes players, I'm sure you have too, Kev. Had Hall not torn his ACL last year, he might have been the 101 in drafts this year. That's how good he was looking last year, and obviously with the addition of Aaron Rodgers. At the 305, running back 11 behind Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson, right ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs and Najee Harris. Your thoughts on him as a mid-third round pick? How have you been attacking him? Have you been getting him at that spot so far this year?
Yeah, if I start out with two wide receivers, Breece Hall is right at the top of the queue coming into the third. If I knew he'd be healthy for week one, I was still a little.
Well, he'd be going higher than the mid third.
Right. He may go 101 or well, RB1 at least.
Yeah.
But I don't think we know that even if he's healthy in spring and the summer, I still like if I'm running a team, if I'm the coach, I'm bringing him back slow. Like he's on a pitch count. Like I want him for the end of the season because I got Aaron Rodgers for the playoffs, right? Like even if he's fully healthy, I would work him in slow. But that is actually what you want. Like he's still going to get the high value touches. So yeah, if we know he's healthy, he's a first rounder. So like if he's sitting there in the third, especially when I get two wide receivers to start, I'll take Hall all day.
Yeah, it almost makes me think that the uncertainty with Breece Hall has made him unfairly fall too far, right? Like because we're talking about the team here in June. They're still hoping that he's ready for week one. This is not, oh, we'll see what happens. Oh, we're taking it day by day. Oh, we're liking how he's coming along. No, they still think by week one. And the fact that we have that timeline, I think, maybe bumps him up, especially as the drafting season gets deeper and deeper here in July and August. Maybe we start seeing him go up the boards as well.
All right, we are back. Yes, sir. Get a little kinks behind the scenes that we are working out. No worries at all. Back here on a Tuesday, 10:34 a.m. Eastern time. He is Mark Malusis. I'm Keith Arizari. Bring in the great Britt Flinn. Follow on social, Britt_Flinn, FLINN. Fantasy Alarm, Lightning Round Fantasy on Tuesdays, Better Sports Network, Fighting Chance Fantasy. And she told me off the air that her stories, Moose, I don't know if you know this yet. Britt told me that she has better stories than Howard Bender, that he's a total farce. A lot of his stories are
not true.
Yeah, I listened. That's what she said. Am I supposed to put that out? And was I supposed to not put that out in the streets, Britt? I'm sorry.
Supposed to keep it zipped, man. That's what the private chat's for. Come on.
No, everybody laugh. That's my bad. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me. How are y'all?
Doing well. I'm looking. You do an amazing job, Fantasy Alarm, and we appreciate the time this morning, Britt. We really do. Fantasy football wise, right now, like where are you, like 1 to 10 in terms of like, do you need to take a little bit of a mental break at some point before you ramp it up again? Like, are you at overload? Like, where are you right now? That like are there days where you're like, I just need like a few hours to take a step away to kind of do a little bit of a mental reset?
I think everybody needs that, but I am overloaded, not overloaded, but there's a lot of news going on and we're putting out the draft guide. And like you guys said before the break, we're constantly updating it. We're constantly getting new information. The DeAndre Hopkins, Dalvin Cook situation just keeps going. And there's little tidbits about that all the time. But yeah, it's summertime. I make time to get out to the river every now and then.
Who got you into fantasy football?
So I've always loved football in general. That was mine and my dad's thing. I was spoiled in the early 90s with the Cowboys dynasty and it ruined me forever. But it was actually my husband when we were dating. His cousin had somebody drop out of the fantasy league and needed a last minute replacement. And I was like, yeah, I love football. I can do this. Knew nothing about it. Jumped in and my husband's giving me the rundown about, you need to take running backs early. This was back when running backs actually went in the first round and people didn't practice 0 RB. And I kind of drafted that way for the first part. And then I just went off the rails and I was like, I'm going to do it this way. Ended up making it to the finals. I still believe the only reason that I didn't win the championship was because that was the week that Tony Romo got hurt.
Oh,
And yeah, and it cost me the championship, but I was hooked after that and it's been going ever since.
Moose, let me hop in really quick. Isn't it crazy how, like, in this fantasy world that we all are a part of and we're in all these leagues, you always remember like a certain player or a certain game that in your mind screwed up a season. Like I had one where a touchdown got called back that Tyreek Hill had in Kansas City, and I ended up losing that championship that week. I lost by 0.6 points or whatever. So if that touchdown happens, I win. And then that was also, I believe, the same week where Beast Mode caught one and then flipped it back and lost a point and a half or whatever it was because it went negative, went back 15 yards or something like that. So yeah, those two things stick with you. It's crazy. Fantasy world is awesome, but also stinks sometimes.
Yes.
Britt, I was talking about receivers here, like how heavy early on, because Keith and I were talking about it last year during the football season, is that, I'm kind of going to be a proponent this year when I attack drafts. I know based on format and structure of the team, it could be a little bit different as well. But if you just go on a kind of a general where I'm going to attack receivers early and wait on the running backs because it's so fluid. It changes week to week. And it's really a passing league where I know exactly what I'm going to get. Like, I feel like I'm, aside from injury, that I'm pretty confident with when I draft a receiver first or second round, exactly where that production is going to be bottom level wise.
Yeah, I tend to kind of stick to an anchor running back strategy because, like you said, the receiver or the league is a passing league. I mean, those receivers pay off, whereas those middle range running backs don't really do anything. They call it the running back dead zone for a reason. The return on ADP in that zone just doesn't exist. So I like to take a running back within the first probably 3 rounds. I wrote an anchor running back article that's in the draft guide that you can check out if you buy it over at Fantasy Alarm. And it kind of touches on the return of value that you get with ADP. And I'll take your running back in those first 3 rounds and then go heavy on receiver and not really touch running back until the 8th.
All right. So let's say old school thinking, right, is going to be afraid of what's going to be left for you in round 8. So I'm sure you've done tens to hundreds of mocks because in order to be able to write these articles, that's really important to be able to know how things would go. So when you're doing that, let's say you get insert running back in the first 3 rounds, you're happy there, and then you're going to wait till around 7, 8, or 9 before you go for another running back. Who are you getting?
So I've been able to get David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Samaje Perine, like guys with some really high upside all the way in the 8th. I don't think that Javonte Williams is going to be healthy as much as the coach speak is like, oh, he's going to be ready for training camp. No, he's not. That was too severe of a knee injury. So Samaje Perine's going to have a huge role early on, possibly throughout the season with Sean Payton. We know how he likes to use pass catching running backs, and that's what Perine does well. Kind of the same thing with Antonio Gibson. They've really talked about utilizing him as a pass catcher. He was a wide receiver in Memphis. In PPR leagues, that's a huge value. He doesn't have to be the between the tackles guy if he's getting all these targets. So you can get some real value there.
All right, what are you doing with the first overall pick, Britt? I have the number one overall pick. So where am I going? Am I going? I love Jay Jettis up in Minnesota. Chase, where are you going with the number one overall pick?
Yeah, I think you have to go Jefferson, even though there is an argument for Chase to be made, consistency wise, because Jefferson did kind of struggle against elite corners last season. He had some kind of boomer bust games, and it didn't always go well for you. But I think with Minnesota's defense, they're still going to be put in those negative game script situations, and they're going to have to pass the ball a ton. And that's why Jefferson edges out Chase for me.
Can you hold on, I'm looking at something. Who would be the first running back off the board for you?
I think it has to be Christian McCaffrey. I know that we are still worried about his injuries. That's always going to be a thing. Let's just be real. With Brock Purdy, when he came in for Jimmy Garoppolo last season, McCaffrey averaged 24.3 fantasy points per game. And that's just huge. I mean, as much as I love Bijan and his potential role in the Falcons offense, the Falcons just aren't going to be that efficient. And McCaffrey has a solid role. Purdy is a game manager type of guy, and I think he's going to get all of the work.
All right, if I'm looking at a dynasty league, I got quarterbacks: Young, Stroud, Richardson, or Levis.
I like Richardson. I think that his floor is way higher than all the rest of these guys with his rushing ability. I kind of worry about the durability of Bryce Young. Houston has a lot more pieces before they're actual contenders, and Will Levis, I think, was just a little overrated and overhyped.
All right, so Levis overrated, overhyped. I'm here up in Connecticut, Britt, right? And I grew up in the New York area. Jets are going to be a huge story this year. We all know they might be on Hard Knocks, even though they don't want to be. And no NFL team seems to want to be on Hard Knocks anymore, as the Jets are basically, but they might be forced to be on Hard Knocks this summer. Last time they was 2010. They ended up making the playoffs that year. I'm curious about, what do you do with the skill position players for the Jets this year? If I'm looking at Rodgers, Breece Hall coming off the ACL injury, Garrett Wilson, give me a little bit of feel about the Jets' skill position players fantasy-wise this year.
Yeah, so I love Garrett Wilson. I have him in my top 10, and I actually think that he can make a run for the overall wide receiver one if that volume stays the way that it is. Aaron Rodgers has Alan Lazard, who's always going to be his kind of security blanket in the end zone, but Wilson's going to be a target monster. I am a little bit worried about Breece Hall because, again, with an ACL injury, yes, he's back on the field and he's jogging and doing a little bit of work, but you can see that one quad is significantly smaller than the other. And it's not necessarily the ACL that causes the problems. It's more of a quad hamstring issue because that muscle can't support all the cutting and running after that rehab. I still think he does very well towards the end part of the season, but I think that he's going to be a low-end RB2 or a high-end RB3. Aaron Rodgers, I think, he is what he is. He's older. He's not mobile, which is a huge understatement. But I think with all of those weapons that he's going to be a low-end QB1. I think he sneaks back in there and returns to his MVP ways.
Is there a player in more mid-rounds to late rounds that you seemingly always find yourself drafting?
Oh, man. If y'all can't see the ball, Treylon Burks, man.
He was that's awesome because he was on. All right, so Matt Deutsch, our big boss here, had just sent out the email asking for potential breakout players. And you've now mentioned a few of the people that I said. I put Samaje Perine on there because I'm a little bit leery of what's going on in Denver. And I had Treylon Burks in there. Yes,
there's so much opportunity for him in this offense. Tennessee has the 4th highest rate of vacated targets. And they didn't bring anybody in the receiving room, which is crazy to me. I mean, he's just going to feast on targets alone.
All right. So who else, though, if I'd ask you, Britt, besides Burks, who else do you think is someone we're forgetting about right now or flying under the radar that you think could have either a bounce back or a breakout season this year?
Oh, man, there are so many people. I'm going through my list right now. I think that Drake London's kind of flying under the radar. Christian Watson is going as wide receiver 20, and then London's going all the way a whole other round later. I don't really understand why. We know what we've got with Drake London. We've seen him in action. We don't really have that with Jordan Love and with Christian Watson. And I think that London and Desmond Ridder have formed this connection. And you could tell it when Ridder took over for Mariota last year. London averaged over 83 yards a game, which was in the top 6 of all wide receivers if it would have been season long. So I really think he takes a big leap too.
All right. Moose and I compiled a list of like either or types of questions here. So I'll go first. Dalvin Cook or DeAndre Hopkins for the 23 fantasy season, knowing that you have no idea what team they're going to play on, who would you draft?
I think I still have to go with Hopkins. It's a passing league. He's a deep threat. He's still got it. He's going to put up more PPR points than Cook this season.
Okay. When you look at, it's interesting, Britt, when I'm looking at fantasy football and kind of the overall, quarterback, you mentioned it where you draft running backs. You're going to draft running backs in the first 3 rounds, right? At some point in time, that quote unquote anchor running back. Where are you attacking the quarterback position? Because, I'm sure Matt Deutsch has told you, he's drafting Fields basically in the first round of everyone.
I think he's drafted number 1 overall. And
right.
Actually, he's trying to adopt him in
correct,
his family.
Right. Yeah. He basically, he can't get enough of Justin Fields. But if we put a, realistic approach here to drafting fantasy teams, when you look at, I'm not knocking, I'm just kind of poking fun of Matt, but
it's fun for us
where do you draft quarterbacks from your perspective?
It kind of depends on the build that I'm going for, but typically in round 4 or 5, you can get just as much return, I think, in that range with a Lamar Jackson, a Joe Burrow, a Justin Fields, as you can with Mahomes or any of the other top 3. I don't necessarily like waiting. Even though Trevor Lawrence is still going 8th, 9th, I'm so afraid of getting sniped. I would rather have that position solidified and then not worry about it for the rest of the draft.
All right, more rapid fire. We're going dynasty here. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis.
Anthony Richardson, for sure.
Okay. Wide receivers being drafted around the same time. Cooper Kupp coming off an injury-plagued season. Tyreek Hill, always off the field issues.
Yeah, I have to go Cooper Kupp here. The Rams defense isn't going to be good enough to keep them in games, and they're going to have to pass a ton, and Cooper Kupp's going to be the guy.
Again, same area of being drafted. Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Garrett Wilson. I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown's slot role ends up going to Jahmyr Gibbs, and with a 4.6 speed, he's going to have a little bit of trouble on some deep routes.
Derrick Henry is 58 years old, and Saquon Barkley wants a larger contract. Who are you drafting?
I still got to go with Derrick Henry. Until he falls off, he's my guy.
All right. Dak Prescott trying to bring back you and your Dallas Cowboys, or Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I have to go Dak. People talk about all his interceptions, but they don't talk about how many bounced off his receivers' hands. Now that he actually has a wide receiver too, give me Dak all day.
All right, and just a league setting thing for you. Do you want defenses in your fantasy football league or no?
I actually love defenses. I have one with good defenses, and I'll take it a step further. I love IDP leagues. I love letting those guys shine.
I'm okay with IDP. I thought you were about to say that you want kickers too. And I was about to say, Burnsy behind the scenes, let's let Britt go.
Get her out of here. Get her out of here.
No to kickers, correct?
No to kickers.
All right, good. Yeah. All right. Thank you for playing rapid fire questions with me. I appreciate that.
What are you doing with defenses, Britt?
What do you mean?
Are you a proponent? Because Keith is not. Keith, it doesn't
Two
like
thumbs
defenses,
down to the defenses.
Doesn't like kickers. Where do you
Too
feel?
random.
What's your take on fantasy defenses, fantasy kickers?
So I don't necessarily like kickers. I think that it's just the ceiling and the floor is just non-existent, and it's annoying to have to deal with bye weeks with kickers. Defenses, I think, do have some upside, and they kind of throw in another level to the game. A few years ago, I ended up going to the finals with the Patriots defense because they would score like 30 points a game because of their interceptions and fumble recoveries and touchdowns. And that was really fun. So I like to take defenses a little bit earlier. I don't wait until the very last round just to make sure that I get one of the top ones. But yeah, I kind of enjoy it.
All right. Jessica Brand, one of our favorites. She hates them both, but I do love the kicker's position in the real game. Silly and fantasy IDP is great. What is your IDP strategy?
So this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I like to attack players on bad teams because their defenses are going to be out there all the time and they're going to rack up the tackles. I don't like going for the shutdown corners because nobody targets them. You kind of have to go for the middle range guys to be able to get that return on tackle and build those points. As far as defensive linemen, all in. Give me the guys with the sacks. I don't care about tackles. Just give me the sack machines.
Who do you think ends up being, Britt? Final one for me would be this. Who do you think is your biggest disappointment? Fantasy football. Everyone loves to see the breakout. We ask you, which rookies, whatever. I'm going to ask you, give me one or two guys this year that you think will underperform.
Christian Watson for sure. At wide receiver 20. We kind of touched on him earlier. We don't know what Jordan Love's got going on. I don't think that LaFleur can run that offense. And they're just one of the worst teams in the NFC North, quite frankly, now. I also think that Breece Hall's going to underperform. People are drafting him at RB.
I'm afraid of him too.
Yeah, and I hate to say it because he is so talented, but I really just don't think he gets on the field. And now there's talk about bringing Dalvin Cook into New York, which tells you all you need to know about his health and how they feel about their running back room.
Hey, so when we had Howard Bender on last week, I'm going to bring this all full circle, right? Made a joke as we led you in. So he talked to us about how he's been to a Lil' Kim concert, whatever. So, all right, give us a concert that maybe people will be surprised that you went to, or, your favorite concert you've gone to. I love music.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody would be surprised about any concert that I've ever been to because I love everything. I used to work at a music venue for about 5 or 6 years. So I've seen everything. It's so hard to pick out a favorite moment, but if I had to, there's this band called Steel Panther. They played Chicago Open Air Festival, which was at Bridgestone Arena or right outside of Chicago. They crowd surfed me to the stage, and I ended up on stage with 17 other girls for a song called 17 Girls in a Row.
That is awesome. That is great.
Yeah, it was really it was interesting. Before I knew it ended up in the air and just floated towards the stage, and and it
I've never crowd surfed. How was that?
Oh, it's so fun. I love it. I've done it. I'm too old to do it now. I'm afraid to break a hip.
Never too old, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
All right. And so are you trying to go to Taylor Swift or no?
I would love to, but I just can't fight with the Ticketmaster crowd, for one. Yeah. And I've seen all the TikTok videos and concert videos. I don't think I could stand it with somebody screaming in my ear the entire time.
Yeah. The last concert I went to, my wife and I, right before the pandemic, went to see Boyz II Men at like a local venue. And it was like a smaller, like an intimate setting. The three of them can still flat out sing. And they put on a great show.
That sounds awesome. Did the harmonies just give you chills like the entire time?
Yeah, yeah. And then you find yourself singing along with every song because you know every song. And then you also realize that you should stop singing because they're a lot better than you. And I should just be sitting there listening.
But you're having so much fun. So you have to sing.
Yeah. And the other cool one that we did before he was like a thing, my wife and I went and saw Ed Sheeran.
Oh,
like
my gosh.
That was 9 years ago, like before, like it was just as the Ed Heads or whatever they were called was just starting to be a thing. We were clearly too old to be at that concert, or not. I don't know.
Never too old. You just said never too old.
Never too old.
You just made me feel better. It was a great concert. It was a blast. We almost went to see him again 2 weeks ago. We were going to go to the Meadowlands to see him.
See, you just reminded me of one that I had completely forgotten when you brought up Taylor Swift. She did a campus tour when she was 16 and released her debut album. She played at Harding University in Arkansas, and I saw just her and her guitar. She waited after the show to hug and take pictures with every single person who wanted to, like the coolest thing ever. And I just completely Forgot about that one.
That is
Here
great.
drops my guitar, the only one that keeps me wishing on a wishing star. You didn't know I knew that, did you? Did you?
I'm
Moose?
proud of you. Little Swifty here.
There you go. Keith's very good with the music. He really is. He's on top of it all. Britt, you're awesome. We appreciate
Britt, we
it.
used to do a fun thing with
Thank
Moose
you so
early
much.
on in the show where we would play music and I would just go, Moose, who is that? He goes, I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that he's like, I know the song. I don't know who sings that. He's
No
like,
idea.
He would just go Jack Harlow.
Oh my gosh. Every single time.
It's always Jack Harlow. It always can be.
I love it.
Britt, you're awesome. We appreciate it. Continued success, and thanks a lot for the time this morning.
Thank you guys for having me.
Great stuff. Thanks, Britt.
There you have it, Britt Flinn. Check out Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription. It's everything you need to win your fantasy football league, including the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide, cheat sheet, one-stop shopping for dominating your leagues, authored by proven fantasy winners like Britt Flinn. You can help with dynasty leagues, redraft leagues, best ball, and more. Purchase for $26.99 and get it free with a monthly or annual All-Pro subscription to Fantasy Alarm. Start your free 7-day trial to Fantasy Alarm. And check them out right now, fantasyalarm.com. We got a new game coming up straight ahead, do we not?
We do, and we're going to introduce you to our brand new show producer as well, Brian Burns.
Yes.
Will come into the house, and yeah, he's got a brand new game. We'll let him introduce himself to our audience. And
yeah, we'll get to know
I think
Brian
it's gonna be a
Burns as
little fun.
well.
Yeah.
No doubt. We'll do that next. It's Moose and Keith. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Mark Malusis, coming to you on a Tuesday right here on the Better Sports Network.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in Dynasty Fantasy Football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in Dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format of fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played Dynasty, it has been I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of seasons, of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you gotta have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise, you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better, nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
There we go.
Woo! That got me fired up.
Well, we should bring him in, our new producer.
Yes.
That is a new intro. There you go. Love that. Brian Burns is our new producer.
Do you feel like you want to call him Brent Burns?
A little bit, yes.
Right? I mean, he's bearded also.
He's bearded. Not as
bearded.
big of a beard, no.
No. I want to call him Brent. I'm not going to. I think we're going to call him Burns or Burnsy. I feel like those are the two Just really good nicknames for him, right? I think those will work.
I like that. Burns or Burnsy or Brent Burns or however. He's good.
I want you to call him Brent.
Brent?
Can you intro him as Brent Burns just for fun?
Sure. Let's welcome aboard our new producer. That is Brent Burns. Brent, how are you?
Hey, doing good, guys. I go by Brent. Hey, you, whatever you want.
All right, Burnsy. So you're going to be with us now. You are producing the show. What was your biggest fear of working with the legend Mark Malusis? Because I mean, it's a daunting task to work with the legend that is Moose. He's so scared he can't even talk. You see this?
Yeah, I can't hear him now.
Can't hear him. He's afraid to speak right now.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, anyone named Moose, gives me caution.
Oh, there you go. Very nice.
He's won like 9 Emmys, I think,
I've now won 9 Emmys, but yes. Brian, listen, welcome aboard. We're happy to have you. And we got a new segment we're going to be doing today. And you had to be nervous working with Keith Arizari as well. Very demanding.
Yeah, for sure. I was warned about him before. Yeah. Everyone was like, look, just tread lightly around Keith. He's a good guy at heart, but he's really, really tough to work with.
Yeah, really tough. Makeup. Where are my green M&Ms? Oh, anyway, sorry. What?
But we got a new show. We got a new, not a new show, but a new segment we're bringing to the show today, correct?
Yes. So this time of year, there are so many trash stories from the NFL that come out. It's hard to tell, what's true and what's not. So I figured we'd bring out the Moose and Keith BS detector, and you guys can tell everyone.
Beautiful. I love it.
I like it. Do we have sound effects for this, or do you need my help?
Well, I'll need your help this week.
All right, check this out, because I got this. So if it's BS, it'll get that. All right.
Okay. I like it. All right, first on the list. Last season, with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, the Green Bay Packers finished 3rd in their division, behind the Vikings and the Lions. Yesterday on Good Morning Football, Packers offensive lineman Elton Jenkins said, winning the division is always the standard. It's always the standard in our locker room and in our building. We feel like we're the best team in our division, and we're going to go out there every week, wherever, and show that we are the best team in the division and the best team in the NFC. BS or not, the Green Bay Packers are the best team in the NFC North and in the NFC.
Yeah, that's BS. Yeah. That is BS. There's no doubt.
So the hard part there, Moose, is so the fact that you say your division. All right, listen. The Lions, I think the Lions are really good. I don't know if they're world beaters, right? The Bears are going to be better this year. I don't know if they're world beaters, right? And then you look at the Packers, and they're good. So, like, if you wanted to say best team in division, I don't know if I would have hit this as hard. But the best team in the NFC, correct me if I'm wrong, actually. Moose, you know what?
Well, I understand confidence. I mean, what do you want to say? I mean, the very fact is that players are going to speak confidently about their team.
In the NFC.
It's going to play out on the field as well. I mean, over the course of time, that's where it's going to play out. So if you're a Green Bay Packer, don't you want to speak to confidence? What do you want to? I mean, if you're looking at me, you're going to say to yourself, well, as a member of the Green Bay Packers, well, listen, the Eagles are better, the 49ers are better, all this. I mean, just from the competitive nature of a professional athlete, they're not going to go say that. They're not going to go do that. So I get that, but from the outside, we're all not members of the Green Bay Packers. So from the outside, yes, you could look at them potentially. Whether or not Jordan Love can play or not, well, that remains to be seen. We have not seen him play consistently, and he's now the starter in Green Bay, replacing Aaron Rodgers, who's now a member of the New York Jets. But from the outside looking in, no. I mean, listen, the Eagles are better, the Cowboys are better, the San Francisco 49ers are all better than the Green Bay Packers. You can maybe make the argument that the Minnesota Vikings in their own division is better than the Green Bay Packers. Nobody in the South. The South is a terrible division.
I think the Lions are better than the Packers also.
And the Lions might be better than Green Bay as well. They showed it the last game of the year up in Lambeau Field, walking in with nothing to play for. And Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions went out there and beat Green Bay.
So now, all right, Burnsy, just so we know, because this is the game that you came up with. So what was the alarm enough, or do you need a number from us, like a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most BS?
Yeah, why don't you give me a number too?
I'm going to give you a 9.5.
Yeah, I'd give you an 8. There you go. All right, what's number 2, Burnsy?
All right, number 2. Lot of stuff coming out of the NFC North. Louis Riddick went on ESPN and praised the Lions for how they have constructed their team. Riddick said, "I believe that Detroit is poised to make a huge, huge leap this year and be a major, major player in the postseason. And one of the primary reasons is because I believe Jared Goff has found the best situation for him now. I think he is going to take another step this year, and you're going to see it manifest itself in them being in the NFC title game. The Detroit Lions will be in the NFC title game this season. BS or no?"
NFC title game? Man, way to really, yeah. They're not going to be in the NFC title game. Now, Moose, I'll go first on this one. I think they're going to be a playoff team. They won, 9 games last year, could have gotten into the postseason, did not. I do love the situation for Goff. I think it is set up for him to win. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a really solid NFL running back. They brought in a few other pieces as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I love him. Target monster. Jameson Williams going to miss the first, 6 games because of the gambling scandal or whatever you want to call it. It's a top 5 offensive line in football. But NFC Championship seems excessive. Let's start with making the playoffs, and then let's go from there.
Yeah, title game. I think Detroit's a contender. Like when Burnsy's going through that and talking about the, Jared Goff taking another step forward this year. Yeah, I could clearly see that. I think Jared Goff and Detroit just works. I really do. I think you saw him step forward last year. I think you could continue to see a step forward this year. I like the fact of what they're doing with their skill position players out there. In Detroit, the offensive line has improved. Dan Campbell seems to have that program on the up and up. And after Jameson Williams serves his suspension, I think he's going to be an absolute stud at the wide receiver spot. With all of that, no, I mean, the 49ers have shown you they can win with a myriad of different quarterbacks. San Francisco's better. The Philadelphia Eagles, there's not going to be this great regression in Philadelphia. At some point in time, you would think the Dallas Cowboys are going to finally be able to get it right here and maybe go on that kind of a run. I'm not telling you that Detroit's not one of those kind of sexy under the radar teams, but I would say that I'd say the BS meter is probably about a 6.5 or 7 for me when I'm talking about them being in the NFC Championship game. I'm not telling you it's an impossibility. Otherwise, it would be a 10. I think there's a shot for Detroit to get there. I just don't think it's a particularly good shot.
If Burnsy had you said playoffs, my BS meter would have been at 2. But because you said NFC Championship game, I will go 7.6.
Hit the siren. All right, next on the list. It's from a Yard Barker article by Clark Dalton. It says, former Cowboys offensive coordinator and current Los Angeles Chargers offensive coordinator Kellen Moore is supposedly already turning heads at minicamp. Chargers head coach Brandon Staley told reporters, "I left the practice field of the last practice of minicamp saying that was the best throwing session that we've ever seen or that we've ever had since we've been here. I left the field saying this is exactly why we hired Kellen." Later in the article, Clark Dalton of Yard Barker says, Herbert should flourish under the sharp offensive mind and develop into a bona fide MVP candidate. Justin Herbert will be a bona fide MVP candidate with Kellen Moore at the helm of the offense. BS or no?
To me, it's not. I don't look at this as BS at all. I think Kellen Moore is. I'm not telling you is this the cat's meow when it comes to offensive coordinators in the National Football League. I love Justin Herbert. Who doesn't? Love what they have at the skill position players out there in Los Angeles. Don't necessarily love Brandon Staley as a head coach with some of his decisions in game and his game management choices. But yeah, I think Justin Herbert's going to be a guy that's going to be an MVP candidate. I think Kellen Moore is a guy that could probably get the best out of Justin Herbert out of Los Angeles as well. So I don't look at that as being I look at that as a 0 BS meter. Everything's positive when you look at everyone's in the best shape, everyone's looking good. I get you. There's a lot of those stories coming out of NFL teams, coming out of mini camps or OTAs and going into training camps, and everyone's kind of, spinning every single story positive. But I think Justin Herbert's the truth, as a lot of people do, and I think Kellen Moore in Los Angeles is going to work.
Justin Himbert, exactly. Justin Himbert is there. Did you get that? Did you guys catch that? Himbert.
Yes, we got it. Yes. Doesn't necessarily mean it was good, but we got it.
I just wanted to. I'll bring it back just in case you guys didn't catch that.
No, we got it. We got it.
Because he's him. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It's someone like that's repeating a joke that nobody laughs at. And
Jamal Murray.
Yes, that one worked.
All right, good. Thank you. All right. So 14,000 passing yards through 3 seasons, right? He had 4,300 his rookie year, over 5,000 his second year, 4,700 plus his third year, 10 interceptions twice, 15 interceptions the middle season, and the touchdowns have been 31, 38, and 25. Yes, give him a real offense coordinator and Kellen Moore, give him weapons around him, and, even if Austin Eckler takes a step back, I don't think he will. Yeah, I think I would put, I guess if we're going 0 to 10, I would give this like a 1.1 on the BS meter. It does not get any alarm here because Justin Herbert has the potential to be a top 5 MVP candidate.
All right, last one. Recently, Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott went on 96.7 The Ticket in Dallas to discuss his thoughts on the offseason. Prescott was asked about whether or not the offseason felt any different than last year's. Prescott said, You're able to take now 2 12-win seasons over into this one and build. First time in my career, I can say I feel like consecutive seasons are building. Going back to 2021, we've been able to build. We built that year, and now we can build again. And I think that's the best real chance that you have of making it. The Dallas Cowboys have yet again gotten significantly better during this offseason. BS or no?
Moose, you take it.
I think Cooks is better. I think they're better at the wide receiver. I just don't know where the quarterback is. So I would say BS meter probably about a 6.5 or 7. I don't know if they've gotten significantly better this offseason when I look at the Dallas Cowboys. I think the offensive line could conceivably, when healthier, be a little bit better. Receiving room, I think, is a little bit better. The concern I still continue to have is one that we talked about with Britt Flinn asking about Dak Prescott is, what is he at the quarterback spot? And is he going to be a player in a big-time game where he steps forward and starts to play to the amount of money that he is being made as being a franchise quarterback down there in Dallas? There's nothing not to like about Dallas, about Dak off the field, on the field. More often than not, he's really, really good. I need to see more from Dak, though, in big-time games against big-time teams.
I'm going to go really low on the BS meter here, and here's the reason why, the BS detector. I think that the rest of the NFC, we just kind of laid it out, is weaker in general. So I think Dallas could almost take a step forward because no one else is. We know what the Eagles are. The Eagles are probably the most talented team in the NFC. Doesn't necessarily mean that they win the NFC, but they are probably the most talented team right now. The Niners, if they figure the QB spot out, which is an odd thing to say, everything else on that roster leads you to believe that they can win a Super Bowl. And then where else do you go? Dallas is probably in the mix to be the 3rd best team. So I'll go 0 or 1 or 2 or whatever on the BS detector. I know Better Boss puts in there Tony Pollard won't hold up without another running back taking
it's another great point as well. When you look at Tony Pollard, is exactly what is, we all love Tony Pollard, but he's coming off a really significant injury in that playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers. So what exactly is Tony Pollard this year?
I still think Zeke is coming back.
And can he hold up?
I still think Zeke is coming back. I think they're going to re-sign him.
Yeah, but what is Zeke right now?
He's a guy that can carry the ball 9 times in a game. God bless. He gives you 9 carries. I think that can alleviate some of the stress on whomever your starting running back is. And that
but he's so slow. Like, he's better as a short yardage running back. I mean, that's what Zeke Elliott is now. If Tony Pollard goes down to injury, he can't be able to replace he cannot replace the production of Tony Pollard at running back. He just can't. He's not there anymore physically at this stage of his career.
Yeah, you're right. All right, Burns, that was your last one, right?
Yes, sir.
You thought your first one you were going to get off clean, didn't you? All right, so I got a BS detector for both of you. I'll let you guys go. All right, so Damian Lillard and his agent, they met with the Portland Trail Blazers brass, right? And a lot of good stuff apparently was said there. Chris Haynes from formerly ESPN, now TNT, said this. This was the quote. He doesn't want to be on a team where it's just 3 all-stars or 3 superstars. He just wants a team that has a shot. That is a quote from Haynes about Damian Lillard. I'll go to you, Bernsey, first. What does your BS detector tell you about that? Do you believe that Dame just wants to be on a team that has a shot, or does he really want to be with superstars?
I believe it. I think he feels like he is the superstar. So I think 3 other superstars would really that would cut into his game. I don't think his game is one of those like like Steph. He can score a lot, but like if depending on the matchup, he can start passing the ball around. And I think Dame is more of a pure scorer, and that wouldn't necessarily fit his game.
Yeah, I think it's more BS than anything else. I mean, I think if you stick Dame Lillard with, I think he wants to be in a scenario where he feels like he is earning everything that's coming his way. Like, that's where I think it is. Like, Dame Lillard doesn't want to be viewed as the bad guy by forcing his way out of Portland. He also has kind of carried the baton of an NBA player that has, quote unquote, done everything the right way, has been extremely loyal with the Portland Trail Blazers as well. And I don't think Dame Lillard wants to be viewed as a guy that is ring chasing at this stage of his career and is doesn't want to have everything set up for him, doesn't want to have the Durant hopping on a championship train when Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City to go to Golden State and won titles there, a team that had already won an NBA championship. He doesn't want to go to a team that's already won a title. So Dame Lillard wants to be viewed as a guy that if he does go someplace else, it's going to be a spot where he still has to, quote unquote, earn it. It's not something that's being handed to him based on the way that he has handled himself over the course of his career. So to me, it's all about perception. I think it's massive BS. I think if you tell me that, if you present an option where Dame Lillard ends up with Miami with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, and Miami is able to then have that trio there moving forward down for Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. Is that being handed anything? Well, no. I mean, Miami hasn't won a championship, but, they've gone to 2 consecutive Eastern Conference finals, and they just went to the NBA finals this past year where they got obliterated by a better team in the Denver Nuggets.
Burns, you ready for your rapid fire, essentially? Oh, this is going to be fun. We're going to have some fun with him, Moose. I don't know if you're ready for it or not. All right, here.
Yes.
Burns. So you give us you can give us your whether or not you believe it, basically, BS or not. Mark Malusis likes the new White Man Can't Jump movie better than the old White Man Can't Jump movie.
I hope it's BS.
That is BS. He won't even watch the new one. I did watch it. I enjoyed it. It is not better. Mark Malusis loves Space Jam.
Did you really enjoy it?
I did actually enjoy it. No. I'm not gonna lie. If it wasn't called White Man Can't Jump, the remake or whatever, like if it would have just been Basketball by the Bay, I don't know, you would have enjoyed the movie. Yes.
I don't think you can beat Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson.
Exactly.
No, you cannot.
You can't beat it. That's why
you cannot.
It shouldn't have been that name. It should have been like Basketball by the Bay or something.
Yes, exactly.
And then you would have enjoyed it. Moose likes Space Jam too.
Ooh, I never saw Space Jam 2. It's with LeBron. I'll go BS. I feel like he likes the OG.
Moose?
I like the old Space Jam.
Okay. Moose.
The new Space Jam's terrible.
Yeah.
It's a terrible movie.
Is a diehard Eminem fan.
Ooh. I'm going to call BS, but I don't know.
I am a diehard Eminem fan.
Oh, man.
I can't really name a ton of songs, but I do like Eminem.
Moose has 3 sons. All of them are better athletes than him.
I will say that's true.
That is true. That is true.
Moose has 3 sons, and I have hair envy of all 3 of them.
True.
That is true. Well, that doesn't take much, though. Keith is bald.
Moose was the producer of one of, if not the best sports radio shows of all time.
I'll say that's true.
Yes, Mike and the Mad Dog. That is true. Let's
true.
do one with Keith here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Keith was a former actor.
Ooh, I could see it. I'll say true.
There it is. Bring out the pictures.
We can see headshots.
He has headshots.
Wow.
Look at that.
Man, that hair looks great.
I mean, look at the hair. How old were you again, Keith, with those pictures?
22.
22. There you go.
I just graduated college.
Just graduated Hofstra.
Yep.
By the way, were you part of the Hall of Fame speeches induction last night?
Not for the sports. Willie Colon, no. Because mine was all broadcasting stuff when I entered the hall.
Did you go out to it?
I didn't. I don't remember. No, I didn't. I could have. I did not.
Okay. Very nice.
Hofstra, they have one of the best broadcasting programs in the country, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's right up there with Syracuse. I'd like to believe. Yes. Yeah.
I had a program director back in San Francisco, Jason Barrett, and I think his son goes to Hofstra now.
He does
in the broad. Yeah.
Jason is what is it? What is his website called? BS something? BSM?
Barrett Sports Media.
Yeah,
Barrett Sports Media. Yes, correct.
Yeah, actually, when his son was going to Hofstra, he had sent me a note just telling me that his kid was going there, and I had given him a few people to contact over there.
Nice. I love Jason. Always been really good to me.
Yeah, I don't know him that well, like just through Facebook and social media related stuff. But yeah.
Well, Bernsey, welcome aboard, brother. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here, guys. Let's get it.
Yeah, let's get it. Is right. Dave Barnett. Yeah.
And that segment, BS or no? No BS. That was awesome. That was good.
That was good. Good segment, no doubt. We got to get into a little Hard Knocks. We'll do that next.
Okay.
We'll take a quick time out. Dave Barnett, do a little golf. Will join us bottom of the hour as well. Get into whether or not Hard Knocks should be a thing anymore when it comes to covering NFL teams. We'll do that next. It's Moose and Keith. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Mark Malusis right here on this Tuesday, Better Sports Network.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in Dynasty Fantasy Football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in Dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format of fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played Dynasty, it has been I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you got to have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise, you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better. Nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
All right, Moose and Keith with you here on this Tuesday on the Better Sports Network. And report yesterday coming out around the New York Jets here before we welcome Barnett aboard and talk a little bit of golf and get his golf bets in, or get his golf bet talk conversation in, Keith, is that that the Jets are one of the teams that are one of four. Washington, the Commanders being one of them. I think the New Orleans Saints. I think there's two other teams. The Chicago Bears being one of them as well. Are one of the four teams that are up for being part of Hard Knocks for HBO this summer. And the Jets have pushed back on it. Robert Saleh has said it publicly. They want no part of it. Obviously, the pressure's on Saleh and company to go out there and win. They bring in Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers this offseason. I'll ask you this, does Hard Knocks really play any longer? I got to be honest with you, it hasn't played for me in a long time. Like, I don't care. At one point in time, it was great. Like after the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl, and you had Brian Billick and Elvis Gervach, and you had Ray Lewis and Tony Saragusa, God rest his soul, and all that stuff. Like it was an unbelievable kind of fly on the wall kind of a thing, watching an NFL team during the course of training camp and everything. But as we've gone along here, I got to be honest with you, it doesn't have any more juice. It really doesn't. I mean, it doesn't carry the same. We get all of that kind of coverage during the course of the regular season. I don't understand why you're forcing teams to go do it. I mean, to the point where the NFL went back to the Detroit Lions and asked them if they'd want to do it again for a second consecutive year. Listen, nobody wants to do it. And here's the parameters. So if you're saying to yourself, well, I don't understand, like there's got to be other teams that are available. Well, first-year head coaches, if you've got a first-year head coach, you're out of the equation. So, Sean Payton in Denver, like they can't be following around the Denver Broncos. It's his first year out there. So take that out. If you were a playoff team last year, you're out of the equation, or a playoff contender last year, you're out of the equation as well. So that takes a number of teams out there as well. Cross them off the list. The Jets are clearly, the biggest storyline in the National Football League, but nobody wants to do this. I got to be honest with you. I think, to steal a line from John Hine from the Howard Stern show, I mean, Hard Knocks has jumped the shark. It really has. Nobody cares anymore.
It's very well put together. The video content, like the way it looks, whether it looks nice. It's like a reality show that's been on forever that most people move on from, right? Like, I'm the weirdo that still watches all of the MTV The Challenge stuff, right? I know, I'm right, in our chat is big into it as well. But it tends to start, dwindling and moving away. Hard Knocks, I mean, Moose, if I had to try to think the last time I legitimately sat down to watch Hard Knocks, I don't know. I didn't
watch it last year. I haven't watched it in years. I just don't care.
Definitely pre-pandemic for me before the last time I watched a Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I mean, and the Lions, I saw some clips last year and some of the interjections, and Campbell's a really fun guy.
Yeah,
master motivator, good personality, all of that. But, this is what it's come down to, where the NFL is basically now like forcing teams to go and participate in Hard Knocks. And if you're the Jets, you go make this move and bring Rodgers aboard. Now you have to deal with cameras, conceivably, as the Jets are preparing.
Terrible idea to do this if you're the Jets. I mean, I don't know if you have to, but it's a terrible idea.
It almost seemed they are reports yesterday. They've not been chosen officially yet.
Right.
And they've said that they don't want to do it. They made it publicly clear that they don't want to do it. Privately, reportedly, they've made it clear that they have no interest in doing it either. But it seems like the NFL doesn't really have any other choice. The Commanders would be willing to do it. However, the ownership swap has not changed. So they don't want to do it if, the new ownership hasn't officially taken over as of yet. But if you're the Jets, this is the last thing you want.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if this is going to end up being an entire Hard Knocks about Robert Saleh bench pressing and doing bicep curls, well, then maybe we have something. But otherwise, I'm out.
All right, let's welcome aboard right now Dave Barnett from Tour Junkies. He joins us now.
Bicep curls a lot, too.
What's up, boys?
No doubt. Oh, look at the white tee. Fit as a fiddle. Look at you, Barnett.
Yeah, he didn't cut the sleeves off for us.
No, you did not.
Can I confess something?
Yeah.
My name's David, and I enjoy Hard Knocks.
You do? Okay, please explain.
I don't know. I've always enjoyed Hard Knocks. Like always.
Still, huh?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Actually, and my wife enjoys it. She doesn't really watch a lot of the NFL at all, but she likes kind of the behind the scenes, the stories of the guys. Like I still, I mean, it's cheesy, but like I love it when they show that every year they show the rookies getting up there and doing their song and dance or whatever the hazing is for that year. And just learning a little bit more about a couple of these players, seeing the grinders, the guys that are kind of no-namers that come out of nowhere and make a name for themselves. I think that wasn't it that linebacker kid for the Lions last year? I can't remember his name, but he was featured through a lot of the episodes. And I don't know. I just enjoy some of the behind the scenes stuff in sports. I'm sure it was better in years past, but I don't know. But I still enjoy it.
Are you a reality TV guy?
Mm-mm. I mean, like, no, but I'm like I heard you say you still watch the challenge thing on MTV. That is
well, you're in our age bracket. I know I think you're a little bit younger than both Moose and I. A lot younger than Moose, obviously.
I loved Real World and Road Rules back then.
Yeah,
loved
so that's why the challenge is fantastic still.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it passed. I don't know. Like now, I feel like back in the day when Real World and Road Rules were a thing when they first started, I feel like a lot of it was actually real, somewhat authentic. Maybe a greater majority of it not staged and put on and
So you want Real World Vegas? They're all in the hot tub and Alton and all of them are doing their thing.
I mean, maybe, but I also don't want it like forced. I mean, I know in reality TV they do that a lot, but I do enjoy like behind the scenes sports stuff and documentary stuff like that, which I think a lot of sports fans do. So,
well, there's a tennis one on Netflix right now too, right? There was the golf one. Now there's a Breakpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't watched that. I'm not a huge tennis guy, but I bet if I started watching it, I would watch it anyway, just because I love like athletes and the behind the scenes stuff like that.
Yeah, I just think it's been. I'm not telling you I don't like. And Dave, I think it's fair. Like, I was watching that Formula One series on Netflix. I thought that was really good. I like the behind the scenes stories. Like, I like to see and hear when people being real and people are being genuine, right? Not playing up to the cameras, which is always difficult. But I do like that kind of how a team is being built. Like that kind of stuff is all intriguing. We get so much with the NFL now, though. Like that's the thing. Like what makes it intriguing about the golf is that you don't get a lot of that. Like in the NFL, I feel like it's been so overexposed to where we get it all the time to where it's taken away the special quality of what Hard Knocks was originally done because it was something ahead of its time. You didn't really see any of that before, and you were taken behind the scenes. Now I feel like we're taken behind the scenes every single week.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that, which may mean that Hard Knocks like has passed its prime because of all the content overload and all that we get privy to now. But I mean, I feel like I watch a good bit of NFL and consume a lot of content and podcasts. Like, I still don't know that I it's still fun to me to be behind the scenes, privied in, in coaches meetings or in, those tough conversations when they're choosing who's gonna make the team or who's not, and some of the behind the scenes background like stories of these players personally and with family, or some of these interesting connections or bonds that maybe two players on a team would form that you may not get privy to, especially if they're not like, key offensive positions or something. I feel like there's still some good in there. Maybe it is impossible for it to ever be what it used to be, but I still enjoy it.
I mean, I actually think the way you just laid it out, you sold me, and now I want to see it. But I mean, I don't know if I will. But I actually
feel know what team it's going to be yet.
That's what we were just talking about. The Jets are a team that's being talked about. Look at the laugh on him.
I don't know. I don't know if I love the. I will say it feels kind of crappy that I would have to be forced to do it like the NFL does with these. But at the same time, like it's a business, it's an entertainment product, and you're here to entertain. So, there's 32 teams and every team's going to do it. And if you've been able to sit it out to this point, like that may not go on very, very far, very much longer, but it is tough to feel like you're being made to let these cameras in.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. Think about like reality TV, right? Like if you either want to be on camera more or don't want to be on camera, there's always ways to do it, right? So like if you were being made to do this, I mean, you could walk around not wearing clothes, and at some point they would stop videoing you. I mean, they would, and now you're out. They don't, like there would be ways to fix this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Jets would be fascinating to follow. I mean, I really do, because of how big of a story it is, and Rodgers and everything like that. I'd be curious to see. Think about the pressure though on Saleh and company, because they're trying to win a Super Bowl this year, and now you've got cameras following you around during the course of training camp as you're trying to bring Rodgers in. And he's been there for 6-7 weeks. He's like the mayor of New York City now, Dave. He's like basically all over. I mean, he's got to like almost every Broadway show there is possible. He's doing everything in New York City. And now to have the HBO and Hard Knocks following you around during the course of training camp, like if you're the Jets, you're like, guys, we haven't won in 50 years. Like, can you just leave us alone? Can you just give us these 2 years when we've got Aaron Rodgers, and just leave us alone and let us try and win a Super Bowl?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get that. I still, if you're Goodell though, like you still look at everybody and go, what's like, I don't know, like what do you think's the number one, what's number one top line on your job? I don't know if it's like job description, but if you're
making money,
if you're an owner or a coach, is to entertain.
Yeah.
This is an entertainment product.
That is true.
It's not necessarily to win a Super Bowl. You can say that may be the player's goal, but from a big picture, zoomed out, 30,000 foot view, we're here to entertain. We make billions of dollars entertaining America, and that's what we do. And then if you win a Super Bowl, good for you.
All right, I just came up with an idea for you. All right, so let's put this all together. If you were going to make I don't know what the name of the show would be, Longest Drive. I don't know. Maybe we'll call it The Longest Drive. We're going to put 7 current golfers in a house and have them, start acting real or whatever, however you want to do it. What would be your list of people that you would love to see in a house together, and you would legitimately watch this?
Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, for an interesting reason. Harold Varner III,
okay. Joel
Damon.
That's 4.
I think Victor Hovland would be interesting. I know some
like
guys.
you wouldn't go with a big name like Tiger. He wouldn't help this. He wouldn't do anything for you. Again, this is assuming that like you're in charge of everything. You could put anybody you want.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess
like, because he would say no. We know that, but I'm just saying, like, if
I guess you put Tiger in there. I would not put. There's not a whole lot at the top of the world golf ranking that I really.
Who's your instigator? You need someone that's gonna be an instigator. That's Phil. Okay.
Phil all day. Harold Varner's kind of a class clown, not maybe an instigator at times, but also just kind of a fun-loving, guy that most people are going to love, but he might rub some the wrong way.
And I know DJ's not single, but if he was, he would be the ladies' man, I guess. Like, because you need like a ladies' man in the house too.
Yeah, but also he's like the cool guy, but he's also kind of a big dumb animal. So I think he gives other guys material. Like he gives Phil things to do that, like subtle jabs or jokes that maybe DJ would not pick up on, but everybody else in the room would pick up on. That would be entertaining.
He'd be Brad. I think Brad was from San Diego. There was really
so
good.
DJ
Brad,
is like basically. I've never met him in my life. So like kind of like this, like a little bit of he won out on the athletic ability, but isn't the brightest bulb in the world. Is that Dustin Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've never hung out with him personally either, but But I will say, over the 8 years we've done this, we've talked to many players and caddies over the years, and when DJ's name would come up, we would usually say something around those lines. And DJ's given a few moments where you've kind of been like, okay, lights are on. I don't know if anybody's at the house, but So we've heard very much that DJ just kind of a he got the height, the athletic ability, the looks, the wife, the money, but he didn't get any he didn't get a whole lot of sin.
Well, I mean, he's one out. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not going to feel bad for Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, no.
He's with Paulina Gretzky. I mean,
right.
I saw pictures this past weekend of her swinging the golf club. I mean, it's just.
What'd you think? What'd you think of her form?
I didn't see
not
these
bad,
pictures.
Dave. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
Moose
wasn't
didn't
bad,
send me
right?
the pictures. That's I don't know why.
The form wasn't bad. What about you? When you're the golf expert, what do you think of her form?
I haven't seen the video, Moose. I don't know.
Yeah, Moose doesn't share.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It was still shots. There were still shots.
I would imagine she has a hard time shallowing the club coming down. There's some factors that would make it difficult for her to be able to you kind of got to like get here and kind of like drop here a little bit. Kind of. I would imagine she fights a little bit of the over the top, somewhat restricted.
Oh wow! Quickly before we actually move on from this, the write-in here was John Daly would need to be in the golf for real world.
That could be a good one. I almost said Kevin Kisner because Kisner can be a little. I mean, he's got a little bit of that John Daly vibe in him. Kind of a party guy, drinks a lot. So I kind of threw that in. I was kind of thinking Kisner, but Daly would be great too. Daly would be probably better because he don't care.
No, this is the content you get. I love it.
And Siwoo Kim. Also Siwoo Kim. Gotta have Siwoo.
Well, you just want Siwoo Kim in everything.
No, I'm telling you, he would be electric. He would be hilarious. You would low key.
Does he know that you're his number one fan?
Oh yeah,
he does know
he
that.
does.
Yeah, we've talked. Yeah.
Oh,
no, but I know you've talked. But all right. So could you text him?
No, the South Koreans are very, as a culture, are very. They are. Like they kind of got walls, right? Okay. It takes a lot to break down their walls. And that was told to me as we were starting to meet Siwoo. Like his former caddy was a friend of ours, American, and was like, listen, it's tough. Like you're gonna have it. They do not let you in quickly. So, but he is definitely softened up. He does make me mad. I see him. He sees our Instagram stories and stuff, but he's never followed us back, and that really that bothers me. But
so, what makes you believe that he likes you?
Because I talk to him. Like he'll come up and talk to us. I mean, he sees me. He'll recognize us on the ropes.
There you go. That's important. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, I talked to him at. I didn't show you guys the picture of me and Siwoo at Augusta National this year.
I don't think so.
No.
Oh man, I don't have it up here, but
all right, next week.
I'll have to get it. Yeah, I mean, we talked at the practice round on Tuesday. We talk every year at the Players, and yeah, he recognizes us. He has our shirts, like of himself, his Siwoo Kim shirts.
Amazing.
So yeah, he likes us. He's kind of walled off to people he doesn't know super well. But
who does he like better, you or Pat?
So funny. Well, he's talked to me more than Pat because I'm at more events than Pat. So gotcha. He probably would say probably me, unless maybe he's more scared of me than Pat. I don't know.
I got you.
But yeah.
Well, okay. So I want to ask you about the Travelers.
By the way, this is the best interview in the history of television. Anyway.
No, I just want to see more of the Dave. If I FaceTime you later, can I send you a picture of my swing and tell me what I need to work on?
Yeah.
Is Moose gonna have the same issues?
Am I gonna have the same issue?
I don't know, Moose. I've never seen you from the sternum down, but
yeah.
If you why don't you send a video to producer Brian here and just let's bring it up and we'll break it down one day.
Yeah, we'll break it down one day. Maybe we'll do that next week. That would be great.
Let's do it next week because next week is listen, it's the dog days of summer right here on the PGA Tour. So this week and next week you've got really minor league level fields and events, which are fun betting opportunities. Don't get me wrong. I love firing on events like this because we're going bomb. We're looking for bombs, but not too many people jazzed up about handicapping it. So, maybe we can get them jazzed up about looking at your golf swing.
So I actually forgot to tell both of you guys this. So I got approached, nothing set in stone yet. I might be emceeing a fundraiser type of golf event on Long Island next year, right? It's to raise money for hearing impaired. They've been doing it for a while now. It's this big, huge event all day. Like, I'm allowed to golf if I want during the day. I'll MC the thing at night. Now,
well, you should golf.
I don't golf. I'm not saying that I wouldn't.
You should get out there. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna play those events. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be like Barnett or Pat. And
I refuse to embarrass myself.
Scratch.
No, I won't embarrass myself. So I'll figure it out. But if I'm gonna golf, then I'll take some lessons or whatever before time. But
that won't matter, by the way.
With my athletic
prowess,
prowess,
golfed before, 1 or 2 lessons is not going to matter.
I need one. Yeah, thank you, Barnett. Thank you. DB understands. DB understands. It just dawned on me though.
Yeah.
Could I get if this happens? Could I get both you guys to come out to this event?
Where is it? Depending on the timing. But listen, I have a dude. My appearance fees are hefty these days. And not just that, but the riders on these things, dude, the riders, I don't know. Like, if it's a charity event, I don't want to like rob from the charity event, but dude, it'd be a hell of a lot easier for you to get Moose there than me. Like,
all right, Pat Perry's in.
Well, no, he's in there too.
Barnett's got to get his beak wet.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I got to travel from, BFE to come up there to Long Island. And plus, I'm a Southerner. I'm not used to like Long Island. I mean, I need to have like security. I need to have travel arrangements, purple Skittles in a bowl.
Yep.
All that. So, I mean, we'll talk about it. I'm down, but
Diva Dave.
Yeah. I mean,
that's it. Where is the event?
Let me tell you the key. I got to get this out of the way because the key to analyzing a golf swing on video is a good video of the golf swing. Meaning, if you were going to, the worst thing, this happens in our Discord all the time. We have a PGA teaching professional in our Discord that gives like swing analysis and stuff on our Discord. He's hilarious too. Probably about to start doing some content with him on our YouTube channel. But it's the worst when these guys send in these videos and it's the dumbest angle you've ever seen, or the phone's on the ground, or the phone is way off here. You have to get. So there's 2 views that we need, but the best one would be down the line. So Moose, if you're standing here, right? That probably looks different. If you're standing here, it needs to be, and you're going to take your swing and swing up. It needs to be, the camera needs to be on the path of your hand at address. So here, that camera needs to be a few feet behind on the line of your hand, not your butt, not way over here.
The line of my hand.
Right behind your hand. And then it needs to be zoomed out enough that I can see the ball, your feet, and the top of your hands and the club when you get to the top.
Gotcha.
If the video is cut off and all I can see is this, that's not going to work. So we get videos all the time, and it's the dumbest angle, or I can't see anything up here. And we're like, we can't help you. So get a good video, and then we'll look at it.
All right. Well, I have my son Jackson, who's 10, shoot it.
There we go. I'm sure that'll work. Tell him down the line.
Down the line. I'll give him the instruction. I'll just be like, listen, Uncle Dave was like, you got to, down the line, hands. I need the top of the hands. You got to shoot it all. We got to get it right. We got to get it perfect.
You guys are wanting me to be your swing instructor. Your
to
your kids, and
it'd be fun.
OMC golf partner at an event.
I didn't say I need you to come MC. I said come hang out. It's gonna be a fun event.
You just want some arm candy, Keith? That's what you want?
That's essentially what I'm saying here. That's essentially what I'm saying. All right.
Send me the video before, and I'll give it a thumbs up. I won't do any analysis. I'll do all the analysis live on the show.
I will send you a video. I will text you. Maybe you'll respond this time.
Probably not.
Probably not. Just give me a thumbs up. Just pacify.
I mean, I guess Moose, if you want, text
pacify me a little bit that you actually got the video.
I'll text it.
If you don't mind. If you don't mind, Dave.
I'll do the very minimum. I'll do the very, very bare ass minimum to let you know I got your text, and I'll just do the little double tap.
Right. Just don't act like you're ghosting me, or if I, that I'm asking people if I have the right number.
Amazing.
Okay.
Call back.
That was a good time.
That was so good. So good.
Was it that big of a victory for Keegan Bradley at the Travelers?
I mean, it was a nice one, man. It's an elevated event, 3.2 million dollars. So yeah,
Do you agree with Rory ripping the course?
Rory, I don't know. Like
that it was too easy.
It usually is an easier course. This is the best field I think they have ever had at that tournament, and that's kind of the tournament's identity because it's always behind the U.S. Open, and these guys, they can't have it both ways. Like I guarantee you, if the tournament was tough, if like the Memorial, which is a tough tournament, right? I think the winning score is like 9 under. If the Memorial was right after the U.S. Open, these guys would be pissing and moaning because they're like, we played the U.S. Open and it beat our brains out for 4 days, and then we had to go play the Memorial and it beat our brains out for 4 days, and it's hard, and we just want to make a birdie again. Like that's what they would be saying. But Rory's pissing and moaning about the Travelers, who says, hey, we know you guys just left the U.S. Open. It's firm, it's fast, it's hard. Like you're mentally exhausted. We're going to make this easy on you. And this is going to be a birdie fest. Like just throw darts, make birdies, get the crowd going. And that's their identity. It's the same identity here this week for the Rocket Mortgage. And a lot of these tournaments, run-of-the-mill PGA Tour events are like that. But Rory's already been on the side of rolling the ball back, this USGA rollback proposal for making the ball not go as far. He's already stated his allegiance to that side of the argument, which a lot of tour pros are on the opposite side of that argument. So I think he's like using it to kind of keep pressing that, because that's going to have to be voted on here pretty soon in the next couple months.
Is this an elevated event, Rocket Mortgage?
No, we're no more elevated events for the year. So we're going to have this and the event next week, which is the John Deere, which is going to be rough. Like I said, these two fields, not good. Then you're going to have the Scottish Open over in Scotland, which is a fun event, and I love it. I love that event. And there will be good players there who are warming up for the Open Championship the week after. So then you'll have the Open, the season's final major. And then you have the 3M and the Wyndham, which aren't super strong fields, but they're fun stories to track because they're the last 2 events of the regular season. So guys are trying to get their points in, trying to make the playoffs, trying to last-ditch efforts to get, the right status that they can have. And then you have the playoffs, which are all going to be stacked fields. So we've got 5 more like really stacked field events through the end of August.
All right. Well, you mentioned it, and you're going to have your big balls bets coming out. I'm
already
sure.
Out. I got it out.
Yep. All right. Beautiful. What about this week's event? When you look at, you mentioned it, not a great field, the Rocket Mortgage Classic. What can you tell us about the course and how deep do you think contention goes?
So the course is pretty, like I said, it's pretty easy, and it's kind of easy to figure out. You don't have to have a lot of course history here to figure it out. It's only been played at this course the last 4 years. The winning score over under in Vegas right now is projected at like 24.5 under. So it's probably going to get to that 24, 25 under mark. The course has taken on a lot of rain, so it's very soft. It already plays into the hand of a lot of long hitters. Short hitters this is one where short hitters can still play well, and they have. But there is a clear advantage, unlike kind of last week and unlike Colonial a couple of weeks ago with the Charles Schwab. There is a pretty distinct advantage to Bombers here. So, and then with the soft conditions, it's even more of an advantage because the ball's not going to roll. So if you can carry it farther down the fairway, you'll have a shorter club in. That's where the Bombers are gonna have a good time. But from there, it's kind of a birdie fest. So like I said, 25, 26 under, you got to make a ton of putts in a birdie fest. So you better come in rolling the rock pretty well, hitting it far. That's what I like. But we've seen 2 triple-digit winners out of the 4 years it's been played here. Nate Lashley won in 2019 at 250-1, and then Cam Davis won in 2021, which he was on my Big Balls betting card at 150-1. So it is definitely going to open the door for long shots to play well here, because the top of the field is not great either. And most of them kind of have warts at the top. There's no Rahm or Scheffler or Rory or Cantlay here. It's Tony Finau, it's Ricky Fowler, Hideki, Sung J M, and then it kind of drops off. So that's kind of the course.
So you gave a few of the names. Who are some of the bombs? Who are some of the options?
I actually, this is kind of crazy, and this does not happen often in golf, but Keegan Bradley is at 30-1. And I think that's a gross misprice compared to how he's playing and how this course sets up better for him than last week did. And relative to the guys that are shorter than him, I would literally, if I were handicapping this myself, I would make him the 3rd shortest number on the board. And he's like the 8th or 9th. And the last time anyone won back-to-back PGA Tour events was this place last year. Tony Finau won the event before. came here last year and won this one. So you can't tell me it can't happen. So Keegan at 30-1 is where I started the card. But from there, I like a ton of bombs, man. Austin Eckroat is around 60, 65-1, young kid out of Oklahoma State. A lot of game, playing really, really well right now in his last 5 or 6 weeks on tour. I think he's hungry. He's ready to get it done. Mark Hubbard is a guy who disappointed a lot of people last week, but I like Hubbard here. He's played well here before. He's around 80-1. Cam Champ is an interesting one. He's probably at 100-1, 125-1. You may be able to find him. Cam Champ is a 3-time winner on the PGA Tour.
Right.
He is one of the longest hitters on tour. Sucks if he can't hit a lot of drivers. But when he shows up to a course where he can hit a lot of drivers, he contends. So this is a course for him to do that. He's either going to miss the cut by a mile or he'll be in contention. And he's 100 and 125-1. And he's closed out 3 PGA Tour events in his career. You can't say that for a lot of guys at that same price range.
Now, Justin Thomas this week is 18-1. I want to ask you about, though, Thomas tweeted out that stopped off at a gas station, had fresh Sour Patch Kids. That was he said sometimes it just hits the spot. Dave, if you're stopping off at a gas station on a long drive and you're going for candy, what kind of candy is Dave Barnett going for?
Dude, I'm a Skittles guy. I freaking love
purple Skittles, right?
Well, the purple Skittles are always the best ones in the bag that you get. But, I mean, in the traditional Skittles bag, the purple is the best by far. So I like the wild berry, the purple bag, or the tropical's good too. I'll do any of them but the sour.
I don't like the sour Skittles. I'm with you. The sour Skittles are
sour stuff. I love Sour Patch Kids, but I don't like the sour Skittles.
Because the sour Skittles, all right, so I'll break it down for you. Skittles in general, yes, they taste fake, but they taste awesome fake. These sour Skittles taste like so artificially fake, like I'm almost like doubling the word of artificial and fake together. Yeah, I'm with you guys.
Like you're trying too hard.
No, right? Exactly. Yeah. It's like, all right, just be one or the other.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that would be it for me.
You know what sour Skittles are? They're the Drake of rap music. Make your decision. Are you an average singer or an above average rapper? Pick one.
It needs to be the latter, not the former.
I agree.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm going to send you that video.
Do it.
Jackson's good.
Give me a good video.
Get a good video of the golf.
Is that Jackson in the background? Did he just hear his name and say what?
Jackson goes, what am I sending a video of?
Dad, what do I have to do? School's over. Leave me alone.
That's exactly right. He's like, leave me alone. Leave me alone. I want to just play video games. Dave, you're awesome, man. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, brother?
Thanks, boys. See you next week.
You got it. Dave Barnett, Tour Junkies. Burnsy, good job, brother.
Yeah.
Maiden Voyage. Brian Burns, our new producer. Thanks for you guys. Thanks for everyone. Jessica in the chat session. You know I'm right. Add everyone in our chat session. Have yourself a wonderful Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk to you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Lewis and Keith, for Keith Arizari, I'm Mark Malusis. We out.